welcome to another episode of the live interviews with Love Thy Body Project. Today we have Jen McKenzie here, who is a spiritual coach, and I'm excited because I love a little bit of woo and all that the body and mind and soul does. So tell us about yourself, Jen. What is it that you do with your business?
Hello. Well, I first and foremost, I started off as a holistic therapist and a Reiki practitioner. So I'm really into everything mind, body, and spirit. And for me, they all work in unison. So I work with the four pillars, also known as like the four bodies and the three minds. So our spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical bodies, and our conscious, unconscious, and superconscious minds. So they're the four bodies and three minds. And I'm also a spiritual life coach.
Yeah.
A Reiki master and teacher.
Amazing.
So it's all a well-being business, lunar spirit well-being, so based around holistic therapy, mind, body, spirit.
My dog, my pup is called Luna. She's a little black pup. She's a mix between a poodle and a Shih Tzu, I would say. But because I practice like the Wiccan path with what I do, and I'm not a real cat person, so she's like my little familiar. And she's called Luna after the moon, obviously.
So that's why I named so I've rebranded. So I have a treatment room in my garden, my cabin, called the Healing Shed.
Okay.
That's where I see physical clients, and then I rebranded my business into so my company is called Lunar Spirit Wellbeing, because I follow the moon and I am a moon child, and so it just fitted in with what I do and who I'm about.
Amazing. And how did you get there? What made you start to follow this path?
Okay, so as a child, I've always been drawn to crystals. I had incense. I was always making potions as a kid, and always out in nature. My mum was quite holistic as well, so quite hippie-ish, and she used essential oils on us instead of like conventional medicine. She'd always try and veer towards whole foods and healthy living and holistic methods. So it kind of instilled in me anyway from a young age. Then when I had my first daughter, she'll be 18 next month. Then I wanted to go to college, and I trained in anatomy and physiology because the body and the mind together, they just fascinate me. I'm fascinated by what makes people tick and what the connection is between our physical body and our minds and how they work together. And when we have a physical illness or a physical discomfort, there's often a spiritual solution to that. So they work. The one doesn't work without the other, if you know what I mean. So I like to delve deep into the root cause of what's going on with people and uncover blockages that they didn't really know that they even existed. And by working on those four pillars, that's what happens. And so I think it's a very powerful way to work, and with the deeper healing as well. And so I started my journey back in 2003. I started my holistic journey, and I'd done other things along the way. I met my Reiki master on my reflexology course, and so I was doing anatomy, physiology, and reflexology at the same time. And then I met my Reiki master. I was like, "What is this? A Reiki? I've never heard of this." And I was like really intrigued. And I went to her house and I did my Reiki 1 and 2, and just absolutely loved it. And then all these like spiritual floodgates opened for me, and I kind of went from there. I did other things along the way, but I kept getting drawn back to this spiritual pathway. I've been through like a lot of lows as well, and the spiritualness and the holistic ways have played a massive part in my recovery, as I call it.
Yeah, okay. I was chatting to somebody the other day, and she was saying that she had had a Reiki massage, a head massage, and that at the time she didn't really believe in the stuff. But the lady said to her, if she looked, she'd be able to see like the colours of where her chakra was blocked. So she'd be able to start seeing the certain colours. And she said all of a sudden she could see colours, and she was like, "Oh, this is a little bit freaky." But it's the energies, isn't it? It's just the energy that you're releasing and those blockages. I do EFT, so I do the tapping to remove any like blockages of pain or anxiety and things, and that really helps me along there. But it's just a magical thing once you can get into understanding that actually, like, all of this woo, as people call it, is actually it's real. And if you can tap into that, even if it's just a little bit, you start to really see a big difference. Lots of people start with law of attraction, I think. Once they start getting that actually the universe, like if you are in that higher energy and you start to flow, they all start to delve into different areas and start to like find their own paths. But I feel that once you've got there, it also like aligns you with your career path, and everything in your life can kind of just starts going into alignment, because you start to trust yourself, your own soul, and your own intuition, don't you, rather than what's being told that you should do or what path you should follow or this is going to happen. You start to just become who you are and believe in yourself and your own abilities.
Yeah, most definitely. It's like his internal validation, and a lot of us do not have that. I know in the past I hadn't, and I was always looking for things outside of myself to comfort me or make me feel worthy or validate me.
So it helps you to get that self-acceptance that actually you know your own path, you know that it's there. I believe that our journey is kind of in us from when we're born. We've just got to find the way of reaching to the other end, like so it's in us, but it's our job is to learn how to get there and do that in a nice spiritual path. That's how I believe. What gets you through, in what belief do you have with it?
It's my spiritual pathway that gets me through every day. I mean, I would put up resistance, I would try and control things, and that led to addictions, and that led to, you know, me hitting a massive rock bottom where I was, you know, looking for that outside validation, and I was constantly trying to force things to happen. I was trying to manipulate and control, because that was like a trauma response to what had happened to me before. And it was like I wouldn't want to let go of that. I held on so tightly to everything that it just, your vibes just go down, and you can't manifest, you can't be in alignment when you're totally trying to control everything. And for me that is then called surrender. So when you surrender control, you surrender the outcome, you surrender everything over to the universe. And for me, I had, like, back in 2015, had a massive spiritual awakening, where I was in hospital because I tried to kill myself, and everything got on top, and I ended up in this psychiatric ward, and I just went to my knees, and I was like, I don't want to live like this anymore. I hated myself. I had no self-esteem. My life had just become, I had like an abusive relationship, and I had nothing left of me. But I surrendered, and I turned my life over to a power greater than me, which I call the universe. People call it God or higher power, whatever resonates with that person. But for me, I just call it the universe. Something greater than me. And, I turned my life around since then. And that was when I really, really got into the deep spiritual work and that deep inner healing. And I tell you, it's not for the faint-hearted. And people think you call it like the woo, and spirituality is not woo to me
No,
at
that's
all.
what people call it, isn't it? They call it the woo,
Yeah,
like, and it's just
yeah,
like, why? It's not
it's
woo.
not.
It's not at
Not
all.
pink,
But
it's not
for us,
fluffy, and it's not like, it's not at all. It takes a brave person to embark on a spiritual journey, because what you can skim over a spirituality, of course you can, but if you really want to get somewhere in life, and you really want to actually love and accept yourself fully, you have to face your truths. You have
yeah,
to face things about yourself, and they're not easy, and it's no way comfortable or pink and fluffy and
not
lovely.
at all, not
it,
at all.
it you go through, sometimes you have to isolate, sometimes you've got to just allow yourself that realization, that healing process. And part of a spiritual awakening for me was not pretty, but do you know what, it was, and it's an ongoing thing,
Yeah.
and it is totally worth it.
Absolutely. And I think as well, with like, when people are, because in my community people are looking to love who they are, and when they come in, a lot of people are thinking, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to look good. That's what they're thinking. And it's not a weight, my group is not a weight loss group. It is a community where we practice, um our mindsets, working on our mindset and our inner self, because it's
Right.
really important to find out who you are, what your purpose is, what you're aligned to, because we tend to, we're conditioned, aren't we? In school we're conditioned to follow a certain path, and those people that um aren't always, the young kids that aren't always in that box, that don't tick that box, they're the ones that are usually the ones that get in trouble at school, because they've got their own
Mhm.
little mind, and they're like, well, actually I believe that I could go this way, or I could go that way. Or they're really like so quiet, and because they're too scared to let out what it is that they're feeling inside, because they don't want to look like they're the ones that are a little bit strange or whatever. And we go through that conditioning of like, this is how it's going to go, you're going to get this job, you're going to go to college, you're going to do this, and that isn't for everybody. And when you're thinking and you're taking all that subconscious, up in subconsciously what people are telling you, and you're not aligned with that, you start to really battle yourself and feel that you're not good enough, because actually people are telling you you should be this way and you're not, and you just don't
Yeah.
understand where that's coming from. So my community is about finding that purpose,
Mm.
ensuring you're following your path, whatever that path may be. But once you kind of get there, once you realize who you are, and you realize that you have that ability to be who you are, and it's going to free you, then you've got it. And once you've got the tools, you can work to it. But it isn't going to be easy, and it's
Mm.
not something that I can go to you, okay, come in my group for 30 days and by the end of it you're going to be amazing, because you've got to do the work, right? And it's a continued journey, always a continued journey.
You have to go back to childhood,
Yeah.
go right back, because that's where we pick up our limiting beliefs. Now, I picked up one from school. My maths teacher, I was not a school person. I hated it. My mind was way too up here in the clouds, and sitting down at a desk doing maths was utterly boring to me. And I was daydreaming, and he said to me, asked me a question, and I really didn't know what he was on about. So, and he said, right, you're like a demented slug. Actually, a demented slug can do better than you.
Oh
Right,
my gosh.
here we go. Not belief number one that we picked up. So I'm not good enough. So, I thought, oh, well, I can't do well at school. I'm not clever enough. And another one was, I picked up as well, I was quite bullied at school as well, because I was really little and I had rosy cheeks and I was a bit weird and like a bit alternative, because I wore like DM boots and I shaved underneath my hair and I burnt incense and had crystals in my pocket. So I was a bit weird and wacky. um, and but I was also extremely outgoing and confident and strong.
Yeah.
But then that kind of got knocked out of me by people that are supposed to be my friends, and started teasing, and I was very, very sensitive. I didn't know I didn't know what an empath was back then.
Yeah.
But now know that I was what's called an unaware empath. And I take people through this in one of my spiritual coaching courses, like from unaware empath to empowered empath, which I now call myself the empowered empath spiritual coach because when we're highly sensitive, things, we cling on to that,
Yeah.
those, that, you know, that one little sentence, we cling on to that for the rest of our lives. And I've been teased about, I used to be quite a bit bigger, so I got called fat as well, and that, with my body image, kind of made me go into that body dysmorphia phase where you know, after I had children, I was only like a size 14, and that's, you know, it's normal.
Yeah.
And but I got called fat, chubby, someone called me or something like that. And you know, those little tiny comments, oh, you know, you're a bit put on a lot of weight, aren't you? Or
Yeah.
something like that. And it's like, fuck off. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Like, yeah, why would you comment on that? But
Yeah.
and I ended up like having real body issues, about, so after, you know, about my weight. And
Yeah.
I took it quite badly, being this highly sensitive person who cared what everybody else thought, because you know, I wasn't worthy and all that. And I actually started starving myself, and
Yeah.
actually started taking weight loss pills that were not very good. And in the end, I end up taking amphetamine, speed. So I
To
wouldn't
try
eat.
and lose the
And
weight.
yeah, and yeah, I went down to 7 stone
Yeah,
because
which
I
is an
got, yeah.
unhealthy weight, because I think you look quite tall, like in and stuff. So, are you quite
I'm
tall?
5'2".
Oh, are you? You look tall in your videos. Well, I suppose 7 stone isn't really unhealthy then at that kind of weight. That
I
BMI,
look
like you might
really,
have just been under. But
yeah.
yeah, I'm the same. I suffered body dysmorphia really badly, where I'm looking in the mirror and I was my smallest size, and I think I was like it from a young age, and I was always that size. And then I had children, and my body started obviously changing. But I was around 7.5 stone. Um, but when I look at myself like now, I look a lot bigger than what I do then. But I'm still in that healthy boundary. I'm not, you know, that's still a healthy boundary. But I suffered really badly. And I remember when I think it was I've got 5. So I think it was my 3rd child. I was at a zoo with my children and we were looking at the tigers. And I just had one of the children and they were in a pram. It wasn't even a buggy. It was a pram, little baby in a pram. And I was stood there talking to the other 2, showing them, I was with my mum talking to the other 2, showing them the animals. And this lady came over to me and she said, "Oh, when's your baby due?" And I just looked at her and I was obviously not in the mood that day, and I'm usually quite quiet, and I went, "The baby's here," like that, and she just went, "Oh, oh," and just walked off. But I just thought, you don't go up to strangers and say things like that, do you? Like, I obviously still had a pregnant looking belly, and my baby was about 3 months old, but I was trying to embrace myself because I'd gone through such a horrible journey, as a youngster. I didn't want it to affect me, but comments like that just made me go back, you know, inwards into myself again. And I felt I was paranoid. I kept looking at myself, and I noticed even now, like I've got a full length mirror in my hall, and it's like opposite my bedroom door. So when I open my bedroom door, the first thing I see is myself, and I try to be really like confident with myself, but I tend to lift my top up to look at my belly. I always lift my top up and look at my belly because that's obviously where people have like commented on it a lot, and so I always check it out. It's got wobbles, but I love it. But at the time I was paranoid, and I would just see a large person even though I might be like 8 stone. And I would compare myself to my friends, look at their stomachs and go, "Oh, they've got a flat belly, mine isn't flat." So it took me so long to stop talking to myself in that kind of way. It took such hard work. It is really hard work.
It is, isn't it? And you know, I look at myself, I've got wobbly bits, I've got stretch marks, my boobs are going south from having 4 kids. But do you know what? I really don't care. I look at myself and I do mirror work, which is really powerful as well. And I'll stand there stark as in the mirror and I taught myself to love every single bit of my body.
Yeah.
And I had consultations for plastic surgery, for tummy tucks, for boob jobs, for this nip tuck, this, that, you know. And it's like, what an absolute waste of money. And
Yeah.
it's superficial.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that once you've had that done, it's not going to change you inside. So you're not going to feel any better. You might for a few months, you might feel like, oh yeah, I've had it done. I look good. And then you're going to just set into your old ways, aren't you, with that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So it's learning to, love those wobbly bits, embrace the wobbly bits. And, now I just think, and if somebody comments on my external appearance, it's nice to receive compliments. Oh, you're looking really well. That's a nice one to have. But kind of comments about your size, even if you're slim, medium build, whatever, tall, is even about size as well. Like
Yeah,
tall, oh god, you're well tall, or oh my god, you're tiny. And it's just
yeah,
like, yes, I am. Get over it. It's just like, why do we feel the need, or why do some people feel the need to comment on somebody's like physical attributes?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, it takes a lot of time, but once you get there, I do a mirror work with people as well. Being a sexual empowerment coach, that's one thing that I will get them to stand in front of the mirror, because if they're not comfortable with their bodies, and they're like lights out, or even with the lights out, I can't get comfortable. That mirror work is so important to learn to look at the curves and how soft and beautiful the skin is, and to learn that actually those lumps and bumps and the stretch marks or whatever is your journey, right? That's part of you, it's part of your journey, and you're not your skin, you're what's inside. So learn to love who you are inside and embrace the skin that you're in, because that is telling the journey of where you've come from.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love working with women with their confidence and that self-acceptance, because it's all about acceptance, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's learning to accept flaws and all, because we're all
Yeah,
human. We all make mistakes. We all have quirky things that we don't particularly enjoy watching ourselves or like about ourselves, but learning to love those and as part of who we are is a massive, and I find it freeing. I would say, yeah, I've reached freedom.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
as I get older and as I mature and sink into that, my femininity and my energy, I find that it's freeing.
Yeah, I was
After
just going to
doing
ask
the
you, do you think it's
uncomfortable
an
work.
age thing? Do you think um like when you hit a certain age, you start to realize actually this doesn't matter, what matters is that I'm happy and my family are happy and we're living the best life that we can, and you
Mm.
start to change through age? Or do you think that it is that awakening moment that comes at some point?
I think both the factors are there. Um, I think they go hand in hand.
Okay.
I've felt um, the awakening part of it definitely has helped me, and that can help at any age. And it's that realization. So I do know women in their 50s and 60s who are still not comfortable or still at
Yeah,
that stage. So I would say more it's got to do with the realization and that self-acceptance. But where I think age comes into it is more of the emotional maturity, where you kind of don't care so much about what people think. But there's a difference between not caring about what people think and then your internal self-esteem.
yeah,
So yeah, I think
yeah, I
they're
think you're
both
right.
factors.
I think you're right, because I think it does go hand in hand. But with age, you seem to maybe your path, you're following that path and you're learning as well. But with age, you do seem to show up a little bit more confident. And it doesn't necessarily mean you are, though. So that
Yeah.
spiritual journey and that learning to do that inner work is so important. It is so important. I'm really
Yeah.
excited that we got to chat today. Thank you for
So
taking time out with me. I'm off to Brighton now. I'm going to go in my car and I'm going to go treat myself to some amazing crystals. And
have fun.
yeah, it's going to be good. I love it. I love all of that. I could fill my whole house out. I don't think my husband would be too keen. But thank you. And I will speak to you very soon. And I say bye.
Bye.
Bye.